Justice Chief doesn't deny reports he overruled colleagues in decision to impose harsher sentences on Occupy activists. As Barcelona picks up the pieces from a terror attack that left 14 dead, Spanish police shoot dead 5 men suspected of being linked to the plot.
Good evening. The Secretary for Justice has not denied reports that some of his colleagues wanted to drop the case against 3 Occupy activists who were jailed yesterday. They were imprisoned after the government successfully appealed to give them harsher sentences than their original ones. And as Winner Wong reports, the case is also creating tension between Washington and Beijing.
Reporters were eager to hear what Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yun had to say about the controversial sentencing. Yesterday, the Court of Appeal gave student leaders Joshua Wong, Nathan Law, and Alex Chow 6 to 8 months of jail time for their part in a protest action which helped trigger the Occupy movement in 2014. This is after they had been sentenced to community service by a district court judge last year, and Wong and Law had even completed their terms. The government decided to appeal because it thought the punishment was too light. But as it turns out, it's possible not everybody in the Department of Justice had wanted this. Asked about a report by Reuters yesterday, which claims Yun overruled some of his colleagues' suggestions not to pursue the case any further, Yun had this to say. Every institution, including government departments, will always have varying views from different colleagues. That's a good thing, he said, because it encourages constructive discussion. He also reiterated the decision to appeal was a correct one and was not politically motivated. The trio began serving their sentences at Lai Chi Kok Reception Center. Friends and family visited them this morning. All 3 have said they will take their cases to the Court of Final Appeal. Yesterday's sentencing has also caught the attention of the international community. Over in the U.S., the Congressional Executive Commission on China called the resentencing shameful. Co-chairman of the commission and House Representative Christopher Smith said it's another severe blow to Hong Kong as a city. He warned America may adapt and reassess whether Hong Kong warrants special status under U.S. law. Chairman and Senator Marco Rubio also called for the swift Senate passage of the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. Former lawmaker Lee Chak-yan posted Rubio and Smith's statement on his Facebook page. This sparked a rebuttal from Beijing's Foreign Affairs Commissioner in Hong Kong, calling it a collusion between foreign forces and those who wish to cause chaos in the city. It reiterated that China will not allow others to meddle with its internal affairs. Winner Wong, TVB News.
Well, turning overseas, the Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for a deadly terror attack in Spain, where the driver of a van mowed down people at a popular tourist area in Barcelona. 14 people were killed and more than 100 injured in what police suspect was a plot of multiple planned attacks. Sonia Artero reports.
Barcelona's historic Los Rambles pedestrian plaza was steam cleaned of the murderous rampage that struck the day before. The van that turned a picturesque tourist destination into a bloody killing zone was towed away. Fears that terrorists are still lurking in Spain is leading to a mass exodus of tourists. It was 5 p.m. yesterday local time when screams of horror rang out from people running for their lives. They saw a white Fiat van jump the sidewalk and begin plowing down crowds packed on Los Rambles Boulevard. Witnesses say the suspect was zigzagging the van to hit as many pedestrians as possible before he stopped and fled on foot. In the aftermath, bloodied bodies were strewn on the streets as crowds tried to assist the wounded. Police responded quickly, evacuated people to safety, and shut down the entire area. In a statement, ISIS was quick to claim responsibility. It said the attack was meant to punish countries teaming up to drive out the ISIS caliphate from Syria and Iraq. Meantime, 2 people were arrested, including Driss al-Kabir as the person who rented the van. But the 28-year-old Moroccan-born Spanish resident claims his passport and ID were stolen and he played no part in the attack. Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy encouraged Spaniards to unite against those trying to rob us of our values. He declared 3 days of mourning and insists stopping terrorism must be a global effort. America agreed 100%.
Terrorists around the world should know the United States and our allies are resolved to find you and bring you to justice.
Australia said it stands united with Spain after it confirmed 3 of their residents were also wounded. This is just the latest example of an ISIS tactic of using vehicles as weapons, like the recent attacks in Nice, Berlin, and in London. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
And one Hong Kong woman is among those wounded in the Barcelona attack. The 20-year-old is receiving treatment for minor leg injuries and assistance from the Immigration Department. The Security Bureau has reminded those in need of help to call the Immigration Department's hotline 1868 or the Chinese Embassy in Spain. According to the Travel Industry Council, roughly 300 Hong Kong tourists are now in Barcelona. They are all safe but may need to adjust their travel plans after the terror attack.
Well, meanwhile, in a separate attack, hours later, 5 suspects were shot and killed by police in a seaside resort town south of Barcelona. The shootout happened after the car they were in mowed down 6 people. Officials say they are analyzing both attacks to determine any links. The attack happened just after midnight in the town of Cambrils. Catalonia's interior minister says the suspects were driving an Audi and began running people down as the car approached the boardwalk. Local reports say the Audi then crashed into a responding police car, and officers then shot the attackers, at least one of whom had a knife. These local residents were out for a walk on the seafront when the shooting began. We began to run. We saw one person lying on the pavement with a gunshot wound to the head. Further away, we saw 2 more attackers wearing explosive belts, so we hid. Police say the suspects were wearing what appeared to be bomb belts, but after they were detonated by a bomb squad, they were determined to be fake. A police officer is among the 6 people injured, 2 of whom are in serious condition. The mayor of Cambrils warned that any community could be a target. Officials previously said they were working on the theory that the Cambrils suspect were linked to the Barcelona attack and an earlier explosion in another town in which 1 person was killed.
US President Donald Trump dug deeper into the racially charged debate over Confederate memorials and lashed out at members of his own party. This comes as prominent Republicans openly question Trump following his controversial comments in the aftermath of last weekend's deadly violence in Charlottesville, Virginia. Jeff Tang reports.
Facing the latest controversy to engulf his 7-month-old presidency, US President Donald Trump responded in the only way he knows best. In a series of posts on Twitter, Trump lashed out at Republican US Senators Lindsey Graham and Jeff Flake, as well as the media. This comes as an increasing number of prominent Republicans question his competency and lack of moral authority. It follows his slow but ultimately combative comments on the racial violence at a white supremacist rally last weekend in Charlottesville, which left a woman dead. His party members slammed him for suggesting there is moral equivalency between the white supremacists and the people who were demonstrating against them. Meanwhile, Trump also defended monuments to Confederate icons by bemoaning rising efforts to remove them as an attack on America's history and culture. Those tweets are seen by some as an attempt to shift public focus from racial tensions to the future of the statues. Critics claim Trump's unpredictable, defiant and racially provocative behavior has clearly begun to wear on his Republican allies. Trump's tweets also serve as extra fodder for his critics, as the embattled leader finds himself increasingly under siege and alone while fanning the controversy over race and politics. The violence last weekend at the Virginia college town has inflamed racial tensions in America and renewed concerns over hate groups. That's especially so after Trump initially blamed the violence on many sides. Then he switched to condemning white supremacists before finally blaming both anti-racism activists and white nationalists. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
When we come back. Principal of controversial Tuen Mun School sacked from her job. Guardsman wounded in sword attack on Taiwan presidential office. And Wayne Rooney inspires Everton to Europa League win.
Welcome back. The principal of the troubled Hing Tak Primary School has been dismissed from her job with immediate effect. The majority of the school board voted to oust Chan Jun-ping during a meeting today. Chan, meanwhile, failed to show up, claiming she was sick. Rachel Lung reports.
Bad news awaited the headmistress of Hing Tak Primary School, as more than two-thirds of the school's board members voted to have her dismissed during the committee meeting today. Last week, the Education Bureau appointed 3 more members to the board, increasing the number of appointed members to 11, which brought the total voting numbers to 24. Chen Cheng-ping failed to show up, claiming she was sick. Out of the 22 who attended the meeting, 17 voted to oust the principal, while 2 were against the dismissal. 3 did not vote. Under Section 9 of the Employment Ordinance, Chan's dismissal will take effect immediately. Her teaching qualifications have also been revoked. After the decision was made, the school ensured that it will undergo a smooth transition.
I'm pretty confident because we have just basically finished everything, which is necessary, and we need to put some final touch on the different aspects, making sure that everything is in good order.
For now, the school's number 2 will take over Chan's post as principal before a new school head is appointed. The new school year will start in just over 2 weeks, and some are worried that the school won't be able to settle its administrative issues before then.
We are talking about 2 more weeks during the summer vacation, so before the new calendar year start. I think if we cannot resolve this problem as soon as possible, the problem will only get worse.
The school in Tuen Mun was found to have registered non-existent students to keep its subsidy from being cut between 2014 and 2016. That was not the only problem. Investigations also show that the school had sacked 2 teachers in June without following proper procedures, while some staff were taking sick leave for a long period of time. Police are still looking into the case. Rachel Ling, TVB News.
A taxi driver has been sentenced to 28 months behind bars for running over and killing 3 roadside workers near Mei Fu last year. The driver admitted to 1 count of dangerous driving causing death yesterday. The judge noted that the 55-year-old was driving under the influence of medications, which caused him to doze off behind the wheel. The cabbie was travelling along Tsing Kwai Highway during the early hours of June 28th last year when the fatal accident took place. At the time, 3 workers were collecting traffic cones used to fence off an area for roadwork on the highway.
In Taiwan, a man wounded an officer at the presidential office building with a samurai sword. Authorities are trying to determine if the attack is politically motivated. Elmi Lung with details.
A standoff at the doorsteps of the presidential palace. A military police officer sustained wounds to his neck, ear and hands after he tried to stop a man from entering the building where leader Tsai Ing-wen was present at the time. Officers arrested the suspect, found a PRC flag in his bag and will investigate if his actions were driven by politics. According to Taiwan media reports, the 51-year-old took action to complete China's reunification. As for the samurai sword, the self-claimed unemployed man allegedly stole it from the nearby Armed Forces Museum. The presidential palace is one of the most iconic buildings on the island.
Although it houses the president's office, security concerns were raised after different vehicles broke into the premises in recent years. A notable crash happened in 2014 when a divorcee rammed his truck through the main doors to protest against a court decision on his domestic violence case. Elmi Long, TVB News.
Overseas again, Washington repeated its ironclad commitment to the security of its close Asian ally Japan amid tensions over North Korea. Military officials say the U.S. is ready to take down any missiles that Pyongyang may fire towards Japan, South Korea and Guam.
We are prepared. We're prepared militarily. We're prepared with our allies to respond if that is necessary. That is not our preferred pathway.
Very simply, in the event of a missile launch towards the territory of Japan, Guam, United States, Korea, we would take immediate specific actions to take it down.
Their comments came after Tillerson and Mattis met with their Japanese counterparts in Washington, where both sides agreed to work more closely on North Korea. Mattis told his Japanese counterpart, Itsunori Onodera, that an attack on one is an attack on both of us. This comes amid a recent escalation in tension over Pyongyang's threats to fire missiles over Japan towards the U.S. Pacific territory of Guam. But North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appears to have delayed the decision following some chest-beating from Washington.
In the capital of the West African nation of Sierra Leone, burials have begun for victims of this week's mudslides and flooding. More than 400 people are now confirmed dead and 600 more remain missing. A third of the victims were children. Doctors say the bodies of many victims are too mangled and decomposed to be identified. Workers are struggling through tons of thick mud and debris looking for more bodies. Thousands lost their homes in the poor, low-lying areas of Freetown and surrounding communities. With more rain in the forecast, authorities are warning that further mudslides are a threat.
Russia's defense ministry says it successfully carried out strikes against Islamic State targets in Syria's Hama province. The ministry said Syrian government forces were in the process of encircling an area where they claim a large group of militants are positioned. Damascus is looking to extend its military advantage after recently capturing swathes of territory from ISIS with Russia's backing. Syrian forces are now in control of the last route that could be used to supply weapons and ammunition to militants in the Akrabat district. The Wisconsin Assembly has approved a $3 billion tax break for Taiwan-based Foxconn Technology Group to build a display panel factory in the state. Foxconn announced 3 weeks ago it planned to invest $10 billion in the state on the first liquid crystal display panel factory outside of Asia. The company said it could eventually hire 13,000 workers at the massive facility. President Donald Trump has touted the project as a transformational win for the U.S. economy. Critics said the deal was rushed and wanted more protections for taxpayers, workers and the environment. The incentive package must still be approved by the state legislature before the end of September. Okay, James, what's in sport tonight?
Yeah, football coming up, but ladies first tonight.